Welcome to the Money Orchard Podcast. Investors have a problem. You don't want to lose money. You don't want to run out of money. You want your money to grow, and you want a future free from financial worry. There are thousands of complex investments. Most of them fail. It's extremely difficult to know what will succeed. That's why Dennis turned financial language into a story that will change how you invest. You will see the financial world as clear as an in-focus photograph. It turns investment information into real financial knowledge that works.
Hello and welcome to the Money Orchard with Dennis Zaderaka. Good afternoon, Dennis. How are you?
I'm very good today.
I am excited. I just, man, it's a good day. Have you had a good day so far?
So far, and it's only noon.
See, that's the first half. That's an accomplishment right there. All right, what are we talking about today on the podcast?
Well, last time we talked, the podcast last time was, we talked about how investment language is abstract.
Yep.
And really kind of fuzzy. And how the Money Orchard brings investment language ideas into a picture that's more in focus. But today I want to talk about how investment decisions are made in isolation. They become disjointed, unconnected, and even sometimes work against each other. Mm-hmm. And I've seen in most situations that's totally unconnected with your life. It's something over here, not necessarily helping your life where you want your life to be. So I'm using the Money Orchard as an organizing structure. It makes it easier to see how everything works together. Your job, your family, your investments. Life is full of risk. The sun doesn't always shine. You got to be prepared for those things. So the goal is to have your portfolio, the investment language, but where we're using the Money Orchard, mm-hmm. is just your money making money to equal when you're working. And when you're working, you're exchanging your time for money. And at some point, you want your money making money to equal the same amount of your work. That's when you're financially self-reliant.
Makes sense to me.
So let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Why do you grow an apple tree?
I grow for the apples. I love apples. I'm from Washington State, man. I mean,
okay, all right.
You know.
Well, it seems like an obvious question, but if you're from Washington State, you've seen apple trees and you've been in an orchard.
Oh, yeah.
They're not the prettiest tree in the world.
They can be a little gnarly. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they're kind of, I don't know, I even say they're kind of ugly. So, but it's for the apples. Now I'm going to make a shift for you. It's like, why do you work?
To make money.
It's for the income, the money.
Yes. Yep.
Now we're saying this way for apples. And sometimes, I hear people say, well, I like my work. And I said, well, that's true, but you could do it for free as a volunteer. It's about the apples.
Yeah, I could do this for free, but you're right. I do also enjoy getting paid.
Yeah. Now, and you could do it as a volunteer because it's, you like doing it and it's, helps people. And mm-hmm. But it's about the money.
Yeah.
Now, the next question is, why do you invest? And this seems so obvious. Like now that we're talking about, why do you work? Why do you grow an apple tree? But why do you invest it's not to get a bunch of more investments. It's about the income.
Yeah, yeah. Future potential is kind of what I think about, right?
It's the future. I want to live good now. I want to live good in the future. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't have a choice. As the companies say, sorry, you're retired. I don't want to. Well, too bad. You're retired. And so sometimes people, for health reasons, can't work, and so it's you want to be working towards the future of having this orchard where you're, and I would even say this, so that you have time freedom to work, to work if you want, where you want, and with whoever you want. That's kind of what I think is a good definition of retirement. And if you have a job where you can work when you want, if you want, with whoever you want, that's kind of being a very good idea of retirement because I'm free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of my aunt. I have an aunt in Minnesota. For years, she worked with this organization, and they had it was a charitable organization, and part of their organization was a small thrift store. And she actually helped develop it and start it and get it up and running. And after she retired, she chose to volunteer at that same store. That she didn't work in the store before. She worked in administration, but she chose to volunteer there 3 days a week just because she loved the organization still, and she could afford, right, to not have to work. So she was able to do kind of be a still part of that organization, but volunteer, like you were talking about earlier, and just enjoy her time and be able to give back to the community. So
Correct.
That's a beautiful
Exactly.
thing when you can do that later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to dig in, dig a little bit deeper and explain the parts of the orchard because we're talking this picture.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I would say, if anybody wants a picture of the orchard, they can email me and I will send them a copy of the orchard, and they can kind of fill in their own, sort of fill in what their orchard looks like, and it gives a little worksheet.
Okay.
But over in the Money Orchard, we have 3 kinds of trees representing protection, loaning, and owning. Mm-hmm. And they represent the 3 financial industries: banking, insurance, and investments. And that's the only 3 places that you can store your money. Mm-hmm. Now, you need all of these, but the problem is they don't automatically balance each other in the right proportions so that you're meeting your goals. So one is you want to protect the trees, you want to create an income that's predictable and safe, and you want to grow your money. Mm-hmm. So in the orchard, there's the 3 trees. There's the sun, and there's a cloud, and there's a sinkhole. And then over there there's the work tree over there in the family. Now the 3 trees, we spent a lot of time on what the 3 trees are, so we don't have to do that. But there's the sun, the sun shines. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But the sun doesn't always shine, so there's a big dark cloud with the lightning come out of there, because life is full of risk. There's risks, there's dangers, and I think a lot of times I don't know if I want to say we ignore it, but we don't pay as much attention to the things that could happen down the road. And what I tell people is we actually know everything that could happen to you. We just don't know what's going to happen to you. So we want to be prepared for the dangers. And then there's the sinkhole. And this is when I start describing this, people get kind of a funny look on their face, and it's like, oh, crap. But you're right. Is the sinkhole is debt, and that's whether it's a car loan, house loan, mm-hmm. Student loan debt, which can be a huge hole that's hard to get out of, credit card debt, and so on, and then over there on the other side is the work tree. That's you working, your job, your work for money, and then there's your family. You're basically the reason why I'm working and why I need money, because I love my family. So again, if somebody wants an actual picture of the orchard, I can easily send them one and fill them out. So let me tell you a story why I like to have people have the actual orchard.
Okay.
One of my customers was a retired nurse from the hospital in Elgin, Illinois, and I helped her with her retirement and rolling over her pension plan and all that, that stuff that you have to do for that. And as you remember, she left, as beneficiary, she left her little granddaughter, little Lori, and her brother. And so this is several years. I mean, this is probably like 12, 13 years later. She said, hey, my granddaughter just retired from vet school, and she has some money. Would you be willing to help her a little bit? And so I said, sure, I'll do that. And so I met with her, and here's the funny thing is when she walked in, I remember little Lori, what she talked about. Mm-hmm. I'm picturing her from, like 12 years ago when she's 9 years old. Yeah, yeah. And she walks in, a grown woman, graduated from vet school, a veterinarian.
That's a shocker.
And what she wanted help with is she had actually, which is very smart on her part, she actually, while she was in vet school, bought a house, and I think it was actually a trailer, but she owned some kind of, where she lived, she owned it. Mm-hmm. And then when she graduated, obviously she didn't need it anymore. She sold it and had, let's say, I'm going to pull a number out of the air, but I think it was around $60,000. Mm-hmm. But she also had about $100,000 student loan yet. Ouch. And so she wanted to know if she should take the money and pay off the loan or do something else. So we sat down and I talked to her like, well, with your job, you want to start a practice or whatever. You might need money to do that, so maybe you want to hang on to the cash. So you want to keep the flexibility, because once you pay the loan off, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. I said, but the loan is so low in price, and we can actually, if you invest it, and we could do this safely without taking risk, we can get 3 times the amount of money that loan is costing you. And so maybe what you do is just take the interest from the loan, from the investment, and use that to make your loan payments. And then you still have a little bit of money left over now. And so, and I'm explaining it to her in orchard language. So I'm saying, you got this tree, and rather than take this tree and cut it down and pay off the loan, or put it back in the, to get rid of the sinkhole, maybe just take some of the apples and, shrink that sinkhole down. But now you got this money working over somewhere else. And what struck me was, while I'm talking, I'm seeing her draw an orchard on a piece of paper. And that's when, at that point, I was just using like stick figures because I'm not a good artist. but when I saw her actually drawing the orchard out and putting her stuff in, I realized this really communicates to people. And then now of the side, we talked about the other tree is the family. Now, let me go back to the orchard and talk about the 3 kinds of trees. You can loan your money, you can own something, or you use it to protect. Here's the interesting thing, and when I teach a class, I talk about this, is do you realize that your sinkhole is somebody else's loan tree?
Oh.
And you should, honestly, the looks on people's faces are,
I never really thought about
it that way.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's,
wow.
So,
so now you understand why you get those credit card applications at least once a week.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
All the time. So that is where the orchard all of a sudden goes. Again, that's how it begins to connect things together. So which side of that equation would you rather be on in the sinkhole or over having the loan tree?
Yeah, when you were talking about the sinkhole, again, I'm a huge fan of apples. I love apples. Also, I'm a huge fan of having money. But I just pictured me walking over with one of those big, bushel basket full of apples and just chucking it into the sinkhole, and just how painful that would be, even just real apples, not even counting just throwing money in there. So that's a great visual. Yeah.
And then what I tell people is we want to make good investments, and there's ways to do that. We can do that, but here's the thing that I can show you mathematically: you will put enough money down the sinkhole in your lifetime. You could have had at least 1 orchard, and then sometimes 2. And I can prove that mathematically. And there's no arguing with the numbers in the math. So the sinkhole, it's really more like the black hole.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, the other thing that goes down the sinkhole is taxes. And I'm going to use myself as an example. As like, boy, I thought I was a financial planner. So I sold my house in Illinois 2 years ago when I moved to Arizona. Now, one of the reasons I did that is I love the weather, but the main reason I moved was the taxes. I was paying $14,000 a year in property taxes.
Oh, geez. Wow, $14,000 a year.
$14,000. So here in Arizona, the same size house exactly is about $1,500.
1,500, not 15,000. 1,500.
Let's call it about a tenth. A tenth.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, I'm going, boy, am I an idiot? No, I liked where I lived. My kids were there. We had had the dog, the house, and it was a great place. But I calculated this out as I could have done my job anywhere in the country. So I calculated over 32 years. I figured out that I paid $280,000 in property taxes.
Wow.
For what? Now, I'm a good enough financial person that I know if that had been invested, even if I did a terrible investment, would have grown to be at least $1 million and probably closer to $2 million. And that's not doing any, buy an Apple computer or anything that went through the sky. This is just a normal cranking out 6, 7, 8%. So, and now let me take the orchard one step further. That would have been a very good orchard. Let's say it was only $1 million. The cost to me of that $280,000 is that $1 million. If I'd been, taken that money and grown to the $1 million, that would be an income for me right now of about $72,000 a year, guaranteed for the rest of my life.
Wow.
That
Ouch.
was an expensive house.
Yeah, no kidding. And I know Illinois, it's very similar to Nebraska. All that taxes, and they still have crazy potholes and terrible streets. So what do they do with all that money? Okay, that's another podcast, right? So,
I don't even want to get into the politicians.
okay. All right, moving on.
Okay. We don't want to get too depressed.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's part of what I'd say in terms of, let's go kind of get off of that and get into investing about the owning part. Mm-hmm. Here's the major problem with investing and I'm going to put it in the owning part, but it's also really in the loaning and protection as well. Most of our investment comes from the marketing department of these financial service organizations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when you think of it in that way, it's like, wait a minute. I mean, isn't there all kinds of academic research that shows you how to invest well? Well, there is, but that's not what what they're selling. Well, let's kind of get into their business. Back when I started, I was called a stockbroker. Well, stockbrokers hated insurance and we hated banks. Now, the banks hated stockbrokers and insurance. And the insurance companies hated stockbrokers and banks. They all hated each other. Why? Because if that guy got the money, I didn't.
Yeah, competition.
But here, now, fast forward to now they sell each other's products. If you can buy mutual funds, you can buy annuities at the bank. Stockbrokers can sell life insurance and they can sell annuities. And insurance companies have, stocks and, they have investment firms too. So it's all of a sudden, everybody that used to hate this stuff sells it. Now, I'm going to take one step further in terms of why is this important. Because many times people's attitudes about whether it's banks, insurance, or investments comes from this old model where they were in competition with each other. So some of our knowledge is like, I don't like this because I heard this from the bank first. So that's maybe getting a little bit too deep into that. But the main thing is in the olden days, we got a lot of our financial information from the other, the marketing department of whatever company that was. Now, some of our information now comes from, and here's an interesting study. People were asked, where do you get your investment information? The three top ones were Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and Kramer.
Yeah.
Basically TV guys. Now here's what's the TV really doing? They're trying to get you to listen, so why? So they can sell ads.
Absolutely.
Now what's interesting is all three of those guys are considered financial experts, except for they don't agree with anybody. They all disagree with each other.
Yeah. That's how it works, right?
But if you're a Susie Orman follower, don't criticize them because they'll get mad at you. If you're a Kramer follower, I don't want to say groupie, but if you're a Kramer follower, they're dedicated to that whole thing, and the same thing with Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And way back when there used to be A.L. Williams, and my friend was actually interested. I mean, he actually invested as the A.L. Williams thing. And I tried to explain to him what the guy was doing. It's like, that's not right. I mean, essentially if he's going to sell you term insurance, couldn't he at least sell you cheaper term insurance than what this is? I could not convince him. He was paying for the more expensive one. So the other thing is, let's go real modern in the last 3 weeks. You now have stock trades for zero, no cost to do a trade.
Gotcha. Like the self-trading sites?
Whether Schwab, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, Fidelity, they all have gone to, I don't know who did it first, but they all had to follow. Free, the trade's free. Now, it used to be, Schwab used to advertise $5 and they had that poor guy sitting in the car, So it used to be $5, $4.95, let's say $4.95. Well, it used to be once 10 or then 14. At one point it was $29 for the ticket and then a penny per share for what you sold.
Jeez.
Now, here's getting the information from the marketing department. I've been going into specifically why. This assumes that trading is a good investment plan. This assumes that you should be trading.
Yeah.
Now, when I first started, this actually one of the more older guys, basically just kind of took me aside and said, Dennis, you got two choices. You can be in the entertainment business or you can be in the investment business, but you can't be in both. So a lot of the trading and the options trading and the day trading and all that kind of stuff, listen, it's fun. I've done it. I do it. It's fun, but it's not investing.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I really try to do with people is say, look, I have no problem with day trading, investing, taking a shot, whatever, but take a certain amount of money, and this is my trading capital. This is my, my entertainment dollars, if you will.
Yes, exactly.
And here's my investment, long-term investment dollars, and keep them separate. They're two different strategies.
No, absolutely. And I, on a very personal note, Dennis, my parents had taken some advice from a family member, that's red flag number one, right? And this family member had some great information, and they had made an investment, and my parents followed suit because this family member was very successful in business for many, many years. And they ended up losing somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000, which was a large chunk of their retirement at that time. This is many, many, many years ago, 20 years ago by now. But they had tried, doing their own trading and their own investing. Again, it wasn't play money, or it wasn't fun money or expendable money, if you will, like you were talking about. That was a large chunk of the retirement that they were going to be using. So that was painful, to say the least, because they lost a ton. So what's your advice, I guess, when you're talking, people have their accounts? What percentage of the money that they've saved should they use if they're really, really interested in doing some trading to keep themselves safe? Because you've got your long-term stuff. What would you say is a good percentage to take and give that a shot?
It really depends on the person. I mean, for one guy, $5,000 and you lose $5,000, that's all the money in the world. I can't take that kind of heat. Another guy, it could be $25,000. Another guy could be $50,000. So I can't exactly give you a number on that. I would say to do that is start small, and if it's working, then you can add a little bit to it. But the danger is then all of a sudden it's working and you go crazy, and all of a sudden you got too much in there.
That's like a slot machine, right? I mean, that can very much be equated to gambling in a way. If you find success and you think you can stretch it a little bit more, I would say if you find success, the money that you make, that's the money that you use to continue, not anything else.
I can add something to that.
Yeah.
The kind of personality that will let you take that kind of risk with your money will keep you doing it until you lose it.
Yeah, true.
Now, and I'm going to say this again because it's that important. The kind of personality that will let you take that kind of risk will keep you doing it until you lose it. So, we're going to pick this up. I'm going to do. Let's do this. Maybe the next one is how our brains, or us, we fool ourselves.
All right. Yeah, we do.
But let me go back to the answer of what I say. And this is what I tell people. It's like, look, and that's whether it's you or whether it's me or anybody, if you can't make your money grow with 20 or 30% of your money, why do you think you can do with all of it?
Yeah.
It's like, and matter of fact, if I only take 20% of your money, I can be more aggressive with the 20% than I would be if you gave me 60%. Because as long as you got 80% of your money really safe, really bulletproof, safety netted, we've locked in if I can lock in your income, that we're going to make sure you have a good income, it allows us to be a little bit more targeted and concentrated in what we try to go for growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so again, I'm going to say it this way because this is important with things. I hope people just kind of remember this all the time. If you can't make your money grow with 20% of your money, why do you think you can do with all of it?
Yeah, that's food for thought. Dennis, we're running low on time. I will tell you, just to piggyback on the story I told earlier about my parents had given my wife and I a gift, and also did the same for my sister, and bought us $2,000 worth of shares of that company that they were told to invest in. And when everything happened, I don't want to call it a crash or whatever happened with the company, I just wasn't really paying attention. I was in my early 20s and didn't really think about the stocks. But by the time I heard from my parents that it was not good and they had taken a hit and so on and so forth, that $2,000 was down to about $110. And I thought, well, now there's really nothing, there's hardly anything left in there. I'm going to find a penny stock or something, and maybe I'll find a penny stock that just absolutely does well. It's amazing. So I did research for about 2 or 3 days, and I made a trade because it was in one of those self-trading type of companies. And at that time, it cost me $7 to do the trade. I remember that. I think it was Scott Trade. I don't even think they still exist.
No, hey, listen, great company.
Yeah.
Now merged with TD Ameritrade.
Okay, so they merged. I didn't think they were in existence anymore. So I took it and I bought a penny stock, and it went down to $18 from $110 to $18 in a few months or whatever it was. That was my lesson learned. And that $18 is still in Washington State, someplace. I think it's an unclaimed property or something. I'm almost embarrassed to show up to get it. But yeah, I won't be doing any trading anymore. I'll be relying on my advisor to tell me how my accounts are doing. So this is a great podcast.
And next week we're really going to pick this up in terms of that, because it's how your brains fool us.
Oh yeah,
and it's basically and I don't know how to describe it. Maybe a second opinion and accountability. Mm-hmm. Somebody that you know well enough and trust who can say, Eric, you're wrong.
Exactly. And somebody should have said that to my parents and to me. So,
and then what happens? You go back and you kind of look and say, man, he's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dennis, I know that you are right, and I appreciate your time today. And I'm looking forward to the next podcast when we talk about our brains.
Okay, I think it's going to be a fun one.
It will. All right, thanks again, and thank you all for listening to the Money Orchard Podcast with Dennis Zaderaka. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Dennis comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Thanks again for listening today. For everyone at the Money Orchard, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day, and we'll see you next time.
The Money Orchard symbolizes the portfolio, which is your money making money. When income from the orchard is the same as the income from your job, you are financially self-reliant. You have income sustainability because of your Money Orchard. Thank you for listening to the Money Orchard Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. TheMoneyOrchard.org.